Dreambender Chapter 21, told from the point of view of Callie. The music place was real. With all my heart, I wanted to believe it. I needed to believe it. But as I approached the cliff with the others, my heart sank. The journey, our journey, Jeremy's in mind, seemed to have come to an end. It had hit a wall. The wall was immense and impenetrable. How could we go through it? What did Sal mean? Maybe Sal and his friends were misfits and nothing more after all, living in the moment, confusing stories with reality. I took Jeremy's hand. We watched as Sal walked up to the cliff. He inspected its surface, moving along until he found what he was looking for. Then he took one step and disappeared. I looked at Jeremy. He looked back at me. Then he hurried to the place where Sal had stood. He disappeared too. Deb grinned. Isn't it amazing? She led me to the wall and showed me the place where Sal and Jeremy had been standing. There was a tall, vertical crack in the rough stone surface that I could only see close up. I knew I should squeeze into the crack if I approached it at the right angle, and that's what Deb did. I took a deep breath and followed, with the others right behind. We sidestepped perhaps 50 yards, and then the crack widened to reveal a narrow trail. We followed it single file up a series of switchbacks. Soon, out of breath, I was standing with Jeremy next to Sal and his friends at the top of the cliff. The land of between stretched out beneath us, a solid carpet of treetops. Far off in the distance, I could make out a few tall buildings in the city. I heard something in the distance, like the hoot of an owl, but different. It was higher and sweeter. There were lots of notes, dozens of them, each round and bright and perfect. Did you hear that? I asked Jeremy. Hear what? Sounds. Or echoes of sounds, memories of sounds, barely loud enough to notice. I stepped away from the cliff and headed toward them. Jeremy said, "We should stay together." I kept walking. "Then come with me." The top of the cliff was a forest like between, but somehow different. There were trees and a path. We picked our way through bushes and vines, stepping over them, going around them, always moving forward. For a while, it seemed as if sounds weren't getting any louder. Finally, I noticed a change. About that same time, Jeremy perked up. "I hear it!" He turned to me. "What is it?" "A song," I said. I became aware of another sound behind and below the song. It was a stream. Rounding a tree, I saw water flowing down a hill. Beside the stream was a rock, and on the rock sat a woman. She was tiny, but seemed big. She was old, but seemed young. Her eyes were closed, but I could swear she saw me. She wore the plainest of clothes, if you could call them that. They appeared to have been stitched together from bags. Her hair was long and gray. Her feet were bare. Her legs, thin and graceful, were tucked beneath her. Her shoulders were narrow and somehow powerful. Her arms and hands were delicate, but I hardly noticed them. I was more interested in the shiny metal object she held. It was shaped like a long golden stick with keys to push and a hole at the end. There was another hole on the side, and she blew into it while pressing the keys with her fingers. Notes came out, but they were more than notes. They seemed to dance above her head, swooping and swirling, then fluttering off. I watched and listened. Jeremy blinked nervously, reminding me of the way people had responded that day in the city when I sang. Like me, Jeremy came from a place where people were afraid of music. I knew that they were wrong, but this sure wasn't why. Music was leading me somewhere. Maybe it was here. The music stopped. The woman lowered the golden stick and opened her eyes. They were green like grass, like emeralds. Like mine. She was looking right at me. Did you ever have a perfect moment? I had had one in between when Sal played and I sang. Now, gazing at the woman, I had another one. The world stopped. It slid to a halt and waited. I didn't move. A long time after that, I noticed her lips were moving. "Welcome," she was saying. "Thank you," I replied. Her gaze moved to Jeremy. She studied him and turned to the others. "Hello, Sal," she said. "Hello, everyone." Sal had met her before, and so had his friends. After all my doubts and worries, he had known exactly where she was headed. "Are you going to show them?" Deb asked her. "Oh, yes," the woman said. She turned to Jeremy and me, rising from the rock. She said, "Follow me, both of you." "Where are we going?" I said. She smiled. "To my home." "We'll stay here and keep watch," Sal told us. The woman strode off beside the stream, carrying the golden stick. Not knowing what else to do, I followed, and Jeremy came along behind me. I tried to imagine the place where she lived, small and cozy, warm and inviting. I thought I would like it. She hummed as she walked, as naturally as breathing. Her stride was firm. Her body was thin but strong. Her long gray hair swished as she moved. It reminded me of Alicia's paintbrush. We were climbing a hill. As we rose, the trees thinned out. The sound of the stream changed from a gurgle to a low roar. The farther we walked, the louder it got. Soon I saw why. At the top of the hill was a waterfall tumbling to a pile of boulders beneath. As impressive as it was, I barely noticed. Beyond the waterfall, surging to the sun, was a stack of silver shapes. They were immense, like game pieces tossed by giants. They had points and edges and smooth, sloping sides. I watched. I stopped and stared. The woman turned and watched me. "Isn't it wonderful?" she said. "What is it?" asked Jeremy. "My home." "It's more than that," I said. "It's the music place."